I've had over 15 different people telling me, asking me if it's their sister or their daughter or their niece, a loved one.
Tonight, how one family's search for their loved one resulted in the discovery of a body in the North Saskatchewan River.
And for us, it's quite shocking to hear that many. Because you wonder, how many missing children are there?
Pimicikamak Cree Nation in Northern Manitoba has completed their ground search at a former residential school site. We'll tell you the results.
And that's where we are most concerned right now is about groundwater.
And a First Nation in the Yukon wants to halt mining in the area to save the environment. Good evening, I'm Pimicikamak. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. The family of a man who went missing in Edmonton over a year ago never stopped looking for him. And in a surprising discovery, they found a body this past Friday with the help of a Anishinaabe tracker. But as APTN's Chris Stewart reports, it was not who they were looking for.
Elizabeth Bedard and her father, Leon Larviere, had been looking for their 42-year-old brother and son, Barry Bedard, since he disappeared somewhere in Edmonton in May of 2023. According to them, Barry had made the wrong friends, and they say they were told by Edmonton City Police that Barry had died, but his body had not been found. So they got a hold of Makwa Bear, a well-known people tracker with roots in the White Dog First Nation near Kenora, Ontario. A week ago, Makwa Bear began looking for Barry Bedard's body in Edmonton. The search led to the North Saskatchewan River, which runs through the city. Makwa and Elizabeth's husband found a body in the river. Alberta RCMP confirmed a body was found last Friday afternoon. An autopsy is underway. At first, the searchers thought the body was a woman.
I've had over 15 different people telling me, asking me if it's their sister or their daughter or their niece, a loved one. I've had over 15 people messaging me about their loved ones missing, and nothing has been shared with the media or anything about this body.
The body was decomposed, but not a year old. Now, they aren't sure if it is a man or a woman. Makwa had to leave the search early due to a family emergency. But Barry Bedard's father, Leon, says he's grateful for finding this body because it will help the family of whoever it is.
I don't hold out any hope, but I know that these guys are good at what they do. He's given me a lot of hope, because I believe now when he comes back, he says he ain't going to stop until he finds him.
Leon and Elizabeth are holding out hope that the tracker will find Barry's body when he resumes his search in October. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
Today, the Pimicikamak Cree Nation revealed the findings from their 2-year investigation of the St. Joseph Residential School. The ground-penetrating radar search found what could be unmarked graves. Reporter Sierra Bettens has more.
3 years after commencing an investigation of the St. Joseph Residential School grounds, the Pimicikamak Cree Nation shared the findings with the public at a press conference. The investigation, led by Pimicikamak and the Saskatoon-based company Axiom, began in 2021 and concluded in 2023. The team used ground-penetrating radar to search for unmarked graves. Chief David Monius said the team's first task was to discover what the graves looked like. From there, they discovered anomalies in the ground that could signal unmarked burial sites, a total of 187.
And for us, it's quite shocking to hear that many. Because you wonder, how many missing children are there? How many children were actually going to school? And we had to not only search the ground, but we also had to search documents and try to find out where these children went to school.
The institution, also known as the Cross Lake Indian Residential School, opened in 1912, operating as the main Catholic residential school in Northern Manitoba until its closure in 1969. It was run by the Oblates of Mary Immaculate through the Archdiocese of Keewatin. Pimicikamak member Sandy Robinson said about 1,240 students from 24 northern communities walked through the doors of the St. Joseph's Residential School.
In Cross Lake, Between 1912 and 1969, 84 children died in the system, St. Joseph's, either through accidents, illnesses, and other situations. And there was a fire here in 1930 in which 12 students perished. 11 of them were girls, and one was a boy, all under 12 years old.
Chief Monius says the communities will conduct ceremonies to honor the children. He also called for the International Commission for Missing Persons to be a part of the searches. Sierra Buttons, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
If you are disturbed by this story, the National Indian Residential School Crisis Line is available for survivors and others who might need support. That number is 1-866-925-4419. This coming September 30th will be the first time people in Manitoba will have the day off to mark the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, also known as Orange Shirt Day. Making it a statutory holiday in Manitoba was one of the first pieces of legislation enacted by the NDP government under Premier Wab Kinew. Now the province is providing hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants to support events and activities that encourage Manitobans to reflect on the impacts of the residential school system. Premier Kinew announced $800,000 today to establish the Orange Shirt Day Fund. It will provide one-time grant funding this year for projects and initiatives that advance truth and reconciliation by raising awareness of Orange Shirt Day and create opportunities for Manitobans to come together in observation, reflection, and commemoration. Kinew says he wants every child and family in Manitoba to have the opportunity to reflect on the legacy of residential schools, the children who didn't come home, and the profound impacts of that trauma on families that still exists today. The deadline to apply for that funding is August 1st, 2024. It's been a little over a week since a mine in central Yukon experienced what could be a major environmental disaster. Now, a First Nation located nearby is calling for all mining on its traditional territory to be halted and for an independent investigation into the incident. APTN's Sarah Connors reports.
On June 24th, a heap leach failure, a process that uses cyanide to extract gold from layers of ore, caused a landslide at the Eagle Mine near Mayo, Yukon. The Notcho-Nayakdun First Nation in Mayo has major concerns about cyanide contamination caused by the slide.
There's a lot of things that we're not seeing that we don't have understandings of in the Yukon, including groundwater systems. And that's where we are most concerned right now is about groundwater.
A week and a half later after the slide, government officials still don't have many answers about contamination. Chief Hope says the government isn't acting fast enough.
There's not as much action or response to the site as we would like.
Now, the First Nation of Notcho-Nayakdun is taking matters into its own hands. On Wednesday, it asked that all mining activity in its traditional territory be halted until the slide damage can be better understood. The First Nation is also asking for an urgent independent investigation and review of the incident.
A complete and independent evaluation is crucial to understand the environmental and health impacts of this most recent event. Plus, we need to evaluate the cumulative effects of all the events that have happened just at that site.
Chief Hope says the incident, which she calls a mining catastrophe, is a wake-up call for the territory concerning antiquated mining legislation.
The Yukon is the last open frontier for mining. I know that there is a lot of mining entities that expect that we have higher standards in the Yukon.
A Yukon government spokesperson says it's committed to working with the First Nation. Government officials plan to hold a technical briefing on Thursday to discuss groundwater sampling results from the mine. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
As the city continues to grow, a controversial future suburb in Ottawa's southeast end is once again raising concerns. It will cost hundreds of millions of dollars to service the Taywin development, and some residents and councillors say the costs just don't add up. Here's CTV's Leah LaRocque.
Lena Treby could one day have a lot more neighbours in Carlsbad Springs.
We're the best kept secret in Ottawa out here.
And says the Taywin project doesn't belong here.
Hate it. Hate everything about it. Hate the idea.
The future suburb will be located in the city's southeast end and is expected to house 45,000 new residents. A project between the Algonquins of Ontario and developer Taggart.
Development has to happen. I'm surprised it didn't get developed out here years ago.
But it's way outside the urban boundary, and close to $590 million will be spent on servicing the area, like pipes and water. Taxpayers could be on the hook for about $160 million. A statement on behalf of the Taywin ownership group says that they are tackling Ottawa's housing crisis head on. The statement also says that Taywin will cover the cost of its own essential services, including sewage, water, transit, and roads.
I was not a member of City Council last term when the decision was made. We need to move forward and focus on building more homes throughout the city, not just at that one site, but everywhere.
On top of the cost and location, there are questions about 3 senior city staff members whose salaries are being paid by Taywin. The city says there is no conflict of interest, but some councillors say something doesn't smell right.
Just feels like what we have here is a developer and a group of landowners who are paying for access to staff, possibly in order to expedite the approval and the process and planning for a project that many people already have concerns over. And I'm worried about that.
But for some residents, they say the entire area will change and are considering moving.
Traffic and the noise, everything else, it's not what we signed up for.
What I love about this place is gonna, change, and I don't see a reason staying here in the long term.
Leah LaRocque, CTV News.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can reach us. If you have a story you want to share or an upcoming event you want us to attend, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories you may have missed, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, LinkedIn, and X. And you can watch this newscast live anywhere, anytime on your phone on the APTN News YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the follow or like APTN News button to join the conversation and keep up to date on Indigenous stories happening in your community. The search continues in Northern Manitoba for 2 men who went missing last week. We'll bring you an update when we're back in 3 minutes. Welcome back. It was a deadly long weekend for two communities in northern Manitoba. The first incident happened on the south side of God's Lake Sunday afternoon. RCMP say a 7-year-old girl went under the water while swimming with a group of kids. Their ages ranged from 5 to 12, and when the girl went under, they quickly ran to get help. An adult pulled the girl from the water and gave first aid. She was taken to a nursing station where she was pronounced dead. The second incident happened late last week. 3 men from Pimicikamak Cree Nation were reported missing last Friday morning after they didn't show up to their scheduled meeting place. It's believed they were traveling by boat to the North Basin of Lake Winnipeg to hunt moose. RCMP located the body of a 31-year-old man and some debris of a boat, but the other 2 men, who are 28 and 29, are still missing. Chief Heidi Cook of the Cree Nation says weather conditions on Lake Winnipeg may have played a factor causing their boat to capsize. Fishermen in the area and the RCMP will continue searching for the 2 other men this week. Strong winds, lightning, and dry conditions in the Northwest Territories are a concern in the current wildfire situation. After the weekend, the Cleechu community of Etso went on evacuation notice, meaning residents need to prepare for an emergency. NWT Fire says the greatest concern is wind causing spot fires from embers blowing through the air across parts of Marion Lake, which would put Etso at risk. In the Daicho region, 2 new fires are burning 40 kilometers east of Fort Simpson. Highway 7 was closed but has since reopened today. For Good Hope in the Sawtoo has been evacuated for the last 3 weeks. There is no timeline for when those evacuees can go home. There are now 38 active fires, 4 human-caused and 34 naturally occurring. Mike Westwick speaks for NWT Fire.
We are seeing some significant growth on fires in the northern North Slave region. These fires that are most affected by this wind event are quite far away from any communities, though communities like Gamati may see some visible smoke on the horizons. In Béchacon and at Edzo, where we did get about 2 millimeters of rain. That's certainly a fire of interest and priority for us is ZF011, which is about 17 kilometers to the north of the Béchacon airport.
To parts of BC now where there is severe thunderstorm watch in effect, but the BC Wildfire Service says with the warm weather, dry weather coming, there's potential for lightning that could spark wildfires.
This warming and drying trend can exacerbate the already dry conditions in some regions. And as forest fuels dry out, they become very susceptible to new ignitions and wildfires can spread rapidly.
The biggest area of concern is northeastern BC. 3 new wildfires were discovered in the Prince George area on Canada Day. BC Wildfire Services says at least one of them was sparked by lightning. A Toronto court will hear from residents in Elliot Lake about their concerns over radioactive backfill underneath their homes.
Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission's contention that it is only mine waste when it has been refined, which when you read the legislation does not read that way.
For 3 years, residents have lobbied the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission and the federal government to take issue with radon levels and radioactive backfill buried beneath some properties. Today, the court will hear from residents and the Canadian Environmental Law Association about their concerns over mine waste and the long-term health impacts. When we return, we'll tell you how the First Nations University is taking back a traditional medicine. We're back in less than 3 minutes. Stay with me. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Summertime and a beach at West Hawk Lake in southeastern Manitoba is where our Jason Corshane was enjoying this sunset. Thanks for sharing, Jason. For the chance to be our next photo of the day, send your photo to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Over on the East Coast, St. John's 13, Charlottetown 27. The Grand River 10, Kuujjuaq 20. Val d'Or 24, Saguenay 25. Toronto 29, Ottawa 29 as well. Wawa 19, Big Trout Lake 22. Puckatawagan 25, God's Lake 24. Winnipeg 23, Barons River 22. Swift Current 22, Yorkton 24. Buffalo Narrows 26, Stony Rapids 25. Northern AB, Fort Chipewyan 28, Peace River 24. Lethbridge 24, Edmonton 23. Tofino 22, Kamloops 30. Prince Rupert 16, Dease Lake 20. Beaver Creek 20, Watson Lake 23. Wrigley 19, Watee 20. Fort McPherson 17, Sax Harbor 6. Baker Lake 14, Chesterfield 14 as well. Iqaluit 7 and Lulik 6. Elon Musk's SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 rocket this morning, carrying another batch of Starlink satellites into orbit.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0, liftoff.
The rocket lifted off just before 5:30 a.m. this morning from the Cape Canaveral space station in Florida. It was carrying 20 satellites, 13 of them with direct-to-cell capabilities. The satellites were deployed into space about an hour later. The rocket's first stage returned to Earth as planned about 8 minutes after liftoff. It settled down on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. This was the 67th Falcon 9 mission so far this year. There are more than 6,100 operational Starlink satellites currently in orbit. With each passing year, Indigenous people continue to move forward on sovereignty and reclamation, including for our ceremonial medicines. The First Nations University of Canada in Regina, Saskatchewan has been producing natural tobacco, free of any chemicals, and only for ceremonial use. Tyrone Perot with the First Nations University went to find out more and brings us this story.
It's just considered just like gold.
The First Nations University of Canada is taking a novel approach to producing tobacco for ceremonial purposes. Vincent Ziffel is an associate chemistry professor at FNU. He's growing natural tobacco in a seemingly unnatural way, using hydroponics in a lab.
The goal here is to work with elders to harvest natural tobacco free of additives or pesticides, etc., and have ways to provide this tobacco to others that request it or need it, to work with elders in a traditional sense or to follow proper protocol.
But there is more to the plant. It goes beyond the walls of the university. The tobacco grown here will be distributed in a very unique way.
When one uses it in a way that respects proper protocol, and that pouch is empty, they can send it back and we'll be happy to refill it and continue the process.
Historically, tobacco has always been a part of Indigenous cultures. It's used in everything from smudging to asking for help to sweat lodges. Dennis Omiyasu is one of the elders in residence at FNU. He stresses the importance of tobacco in Indigenous culture.
It's just considered just like gold. Because there are other people, other societies that need that sacred tobacco.
This tobacco, harvested traditionally at the university, will be a welcomed replacement for commercial tobacco that is often used in ceremony.
The practice of protocol of offering tobacco will not be swept on a wayside and forgotten, but it continues on, and that's called respect.
This is Tyrone Perot reporting for Indigenize, First Nations University of Canada.
Thank you, Tyrone. And that's your evening APTN National Newscast for this Wednesday, July 3rd. We'll be back again tomorrow for your midday newscast. And R&B singer Tia Wood from Saddle Lake Cree Nation in Alberta will join our Dennis Ward to talk about her brand new song, Dirt Roads. The 25-year-old followed her dreams to become an artist, packed her bags and moved to Los Angeles and signed with Sony Canada last December. It's definitely an interview you don't want to miss. From everyone here in our Winnipeg HQ and from our reporters from across the country, hi miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again.